Hello everyone and welcome to the Zcast once again, post week 4 I believe. It's week 4? Yeah, week 4. I'm joined of course by Rebel. Say hello Rebel.
Fuck off.
And Squee, of course. Say hello Squee. Oh dear. I swear I say that every single time we do this. Always starts with an oh dear. How was your break? Because we didn't do week 3 because of course stuff got in the way. So
I slept. It was good.
For a solid week.
Nice for some people. I was doing university work and getting thoroughly pissed off with everything. So
Ugh.
yeah, it was good.
Ugh, study. Ugh.
Well, I say studying.
I mean playing games and pretending to study.
No, not really.
Oh, Jesus.
No, not as much as I'd liked.
Wow.
I just had a huge amount of various bits of coding to do. And then someone decided that the maths teacher, who is shit and I don't turn up to math lessons, wasn't teaching them properly, which I could have told them from the first week, and decided that because I'm passing the maths things with like 90% and stuff, he wanted me to spend time teaching him maths, which was
Hang on, wait.
thoroughly tedious.
The teacher wanted you to spend time teaching him maths.
No, one of the guys in the class. The teacher's crap. The teacher can't teach anybody anything. This is great, actually, okay? So, she sets us a practice exam paper, okay? And with the practice exam paper, of course, they hand out answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Wait, yeah. Okay.
So they give you the answers to questions, right?
Yeah.
So, I looked at it and went, oh, right, that's vaguely interesting. There's a practice exam thing. I genuinely don't give a shit. I will just go into the exam and I will ace it, and I did. But before this thing turned up, a bunch of my friends were looking over this past exam paper, and one of them is not very good at maths, and so he was getting really confused. He said to me, "I'm getting all of this stuff wrong, and I don't understand why."
It's because he's an idiot.
No,
Sorry.
it turns out the maths teacher is completely and utterly fucking useless, because the answers were A, incomplete, and B, wrong, for the most part. About 50 or 60% of the actual answers were wrong, completely wrong.
And this
Like,
is a...
you couldn't even switch, you couldn't even switch questions around and put answers from like question 1 into question 2 and then it would work. No, it was just wrong. It was flat out fucked up.
A ringing
Spent
endorsement.
like the fucking day trying to sort that bullshit out.
A ringing endorsement of British universities there, everyone.
Yeah.
Let's hope the maths
absolutely.
teacher doesn't listen in. In that case, it wasn't you he was talking about.
Well, to be quite honest with you, she probably doesn't like me very much anyway, given that I am the person that I turned up to one of the lessons because I thought that it might be vaguely useful, right? She was talking about going over one of the programming softwares we were using and talking about going over that and showing us some explanations about stuff. It was so tedious and so easy because she spent half of the lesson talking about stuff that everybody else had already done and I did like 2 years ago. Then started going over really, really simple stuff. So I went to sleep. Sitting unusually for me because I got into the lecture like just before it started with a couple of friends of mine because we were dossing about doing some coding and we sort of forgot. So we got into the lesson just as it was about to start and had to sit at the front, which I don't usually do because in the front you get asked questions and I'd rather just go to sleep. So I went to sleep.
Right.
In the front of the lecture. Yeah.
And she hit me.
No.
Repeatedly, until I cried and bled.
To be quite frank, the glare I gave her when she
when she woke me
voice,
up, the bitch.
She like walked over towards us and raised her voice. Like, so she was basically standing reasonably close to us, and she's usually quite softly spoken. You know, there's lots of umming and ahhing, and you know, she's just a crap teacher. And so she just then raises her voice next to me, and because it was a change in tone and a change in everything, I woke up. And I just glared at her.
Oh God.
What's going on? Why? What?
Do you think I have better things to do than listen and not sleep? How dare you?
I know, right?
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
the only reason I haven't got up and left this lecture as soon as it's like once I actually realised what it was you were going on about is because there's people either side of me, and I'm not just jumping over the front of the fucking lab benches to get out.
Do a somersault or something.
I'm just too lazy. I was like, I'm not doing this.
Oh dear. Anyway, that's it for the Zcast, everyone.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoy it. Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
I was
pretty
gonna
much
say
it.
though, if we find out that she was listening to this and she does like Dragon Ball Z, I think my opinion would go up.
Yeah. We'd be on her side then.
You're welcome to be. I don't really mind.
Oh dear.
But yeah, so
Anyway.
that was probably the highlight of my week. It was the best bit.
that glare.
Yeah.
That glare.
Oh no, just that lecture, that tedious, fucking pointless lecture was the best part of my week.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So Rebel slept, Squeeze slept, and I did stuff. Okay.
That was pretty much the only bit of sleep I got for that entire week. It was awful.
Oh, fair enough. Anyway, bringing it back to a slightly more relevant topic.
No.
Week
no,
4.
No, I think I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna make myself.
You came on here to say that, did you?
Yeah, I'm done now. This is my job sorted.
Oh dear. The first match, quick. Go
Wait,
on.
did I mention I'm being
Jesus
forced
Christ.
to record my own audio here? This is terrible.
Yeah, they have
What a
there's
slave driver!
I know, right?
changes are happening here.
That's because he's being bloody lazy and not doing like general audio balancing. I'm a prick.
I know, fucking hell. The first match of week 4,
Trying to think of another topic I can just sort of
Valkyries
interrupt you with.
versus the Boos. Go. Do you remember who won that?
Besides me accidentally spoiling the match with my papa,
That was pretty funny.
what I get for
Squid,
doing that at
why
2 in
did
the
you do
morning. So
that?
I apologize, everyone. I actually had someone like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "Oh crap! I am sorry. I was supposed to say 3-0. Whoops."
Oh dear.
Now, in my defense, if the Vals had lost, it still would have said 4-0 because it wasn't my goal.
Yeah.
Next time you should just put like 7 and 4. Another one just to see if anyone
Spoil
believes
the
you.
entire season. Nobody put allegations of corruption.
Yeah.
Ignore them. It's fine.
We'll just shred them.
Yeah.
So
They'll come through to me anyway. So
yeah, you just sleep or glare.
I do good glaring.
This was quite an interesting start to the match, at least. Boo tried an interesting tactic, putting out Kid Boo up first, because they rightly predicted Valkyries would start with Pan, who is arguably one of the weaker members of the Valves, which was a wise move. But they didn't anticipate a tag out, unfortunately. Which,
Yeah, it was a nice idea to start the game off. The slight problem with that was the fact that they didn't count on the rest of the team.
yeah, I think they were just hoping for a big enough lead, but
Yeah.
Pan saw
it's
through
a
that.
good idea to get that kind of lead initially, but
And I said it during the match. It was a good strategy. Just sometimes good strategies aren't enough.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm just gonna check who else they had in the team, because I don't.
I mean,
quite
they
remember.
didn't expect. No one expected Fasha to be that good against Kid Boo.
Yeah, that's for certain. Well, to be fair, he tried really hard. It's like 8 B2s fired off. But Fasha was just like, stop. Or just a kick or a grab.
yeah,
Damn it, Fasha.
to absolutely destroy you. And yeah, it was good. It was good. It was a really interesting match actually. There was a lot of B2s fired off in that one.
The Boos, I think,
Really good.
judging by the team they put out and assuming they think Majin Buu is their weakest player, put out the strongest this one as well.
I think Oob's probably their weakest player.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, yeah, I don't know really. I don't know the Boos well enough. So I'd agree with that.
Well, we can find out who their weakest player is. We've got
Well, for this week, let me have a look. It was.
Well, when they put him out there, their weakest player. Hang on, I got the Boos here.
This week was Oob, yeah.
Kid Boo. No, I'm sorry, not Kid Boo.
Kid Boo was
I thought it was
okay.
in order. No, it was Oob.
Yeah.
Rebel. No.
Well, yeah.
It was, believe it or not, Gohan Boo.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that one. Actually.
Well, all
But
this
see, here's
together.
the thing about the Boos, and this is why it's so unusual. Every single member of the Boos is not ranked well. Okay, they've got Gohan Boo at 71, Majin Buu at 70, Oob at 62, Kid Buu at 29 and Evil Buu at 16. That's their entire team. Their highest member is Evil
Hang on a
Buu
second.
at 16.
You're looking at week 3.
Right. I was looking at week 3 when they were going into the
Oh,
match.
right.
Oh, right, yeah, fair enough. I was like, what stats are you?
Hang on a
What
second.
are you reading these
Well,
from?
now things
Don't
are a bit
understand.
different. Kid Buu went up to 18.
Yeah.
Oob went down to 70. Gohan Buu went up a bit to 58. Majin Buu went down to 74, and Evil Buu went down to 28. So really, not that much better.
Yeah.
No.
Oh my god.
No, they're not. They're not. I don't know. The Boos. It's weird. The Boos. The Boos.
They are literally, after
Yeah,
this
it
week, they are ranked last place in overall teams.
Yes, they are. After this week.
God.
Yeah, there's no team left who's not won a match yet, which is cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, as far as damage done, they're in last place
Oh right, well.
as overall teams. Like, because in the stats we have single players, and then we have the overall team and how they're doing.
Yeah.
And Boos are ranked 16th of 16 teams.
That is quite abysmal.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty dominant win. There was about a 30k, 20 to 30k gap between the two teams'
Yeah.
damage, so unlucky Boos, but you put up a good show.
And an interesting thing, and I was mentioning this in my pop-ups, but the funny part about that is that the Valkyries are now 4-0, but they're not excellent in the rankings. They're ranked 11th as far as teams when it comes over to player damage. Pan's at 68, Seiya Woman's at 55, Android 18's at 78, Aurelia's at 11, and Fosh is at 4. That means they only got one person in the top 10. To me, this suggests just a lot of teamwork as opposed to one or two elite players. They're not killing it in the damage field. They don't have, you know, a bunch of Friezas and Majin Vegetas on their team. They just work really well as a team.
I mean, considering the past we've had, you can immediately pinpoint excellent players on the excellent teams. It's kind of weird to see that you haven't got a hugely damaging team at 4-0. It's a bit surreal, to be honest. I mean, even the Super Saiyans aren't. You just think the ones that are winning are on top. That's the standard thing you'd think.
That's the normal thing to believe, right?
I mean, the Blades, they've got 2 elite players. Most of the league doesn't have any, and the Blades have 2.
Right.
It's just weird. Very
The
weird.
Blades actually have 3 people in the top 10.
Yeah, I know. What's going on there? Anyway, the next match we will go to is the Saiyans versus the Super Saiyans.
Oh, what a good match. Just poor Saiyans.
Yeah. Poor Saiyans.
Asia in complete agreement with you on that one.
Those
God.
Saiyans scaring the crap out of everyone. Jesus Christ. I mean, the Saiyan, I'm not surprised it was a close match. I was pretty certain going into it was not going to be easy to win. And they proved me right. I thought, to be honest, this is going off my memory, I'm not looking at the stats or anything, I thought Vegeta Scouter would have done better, to be honest.
Yeah, he wasn't especially impressive compared to what he usually is, but you have to think, who was he up against?
And Vegeta, I think.
And
No,
Vegeta.
Super Vegeta.
Well, no, he was up against Super Vegeta and In Vegeta.
It was
So-
every Vegeta they wanted.
So I was gonna say, I mean, I don't know exactly how you were expecting him to do, because he did good against Super Vegeta and did okay against In Vegeta.
I guess, yeah. I mean,
But I mean,
overall,
but it
overall,
wasn't.
overall, his stats are a bit shit for this one,
Yeah,
to be honest with you.
that's true.
yeah, 32,000. I mean, it's pretty good. I don't envy
It's
him
not
going up against those two.
bad, but I mean, there's hardly, it wasn't like he threw out a huge number of moves or anything like that compared to what we used
I
to.
don't think he threw out 3 B2s, I think? Yeah, 3 B2s,
I'm not sure.
and one of them hit, so yeah, it's been unlucky there.
Yeah, it's hardly the powerhouse that we're used to on the.
Funnily enough, Turles actually did the most damage for the Saiyans. He did 50k and
yeah.
Bardock did 47.
Yeah, Tillus was actually quite good. I mean, he certainly didn't get dominated in any way. It was a bit of a thorn in your side, really.
Damn you. It's Goku. It's Goku. He's just calling himself a different name. I swear.
But an interesting thing to point out that I'm looking at right now with In Vegeta with the Super Saiyans, he has 100% completion with his B2s right now. He's fired
Really?
7 for the season and hit with 7 for the season.
Oh, good job. High five! Smash screen.
He ain't Android 17 though, so don't.
Whatever. Whatever. Let's ignore him. If we go on to the Super Saiyans, though, I mean, speaking from a co-coach point of view, not having Trunks in there, it was a bit scary because he's, as the tank, he kind of gives off like an anchor. You know when Trunks goes in, he's going to last a while. We didn't have that this time, and it was a...
Yeah, but you've got Goku as effectively a meat shield.
Yeah, but he doesn't last very long. He's like a slice of bacon for a meat shield.
What are you talking about? He's got that Super Saiyan 3 then tag out combo. It's amazing.
He actually actually took someone out as Super Saiyan 3. He didn't die. That's
and here's the secret of the Super Saiyans, because like we said before, they're not the highest damaging team in the league. In fact, as far as the league goes, they are ranked only number 4. I mean, it's still pretty high, but considering, basically, here's why. For the season, they have 11 tag outs total.
Really?
Actually, hang on, let me see if that's changed so far. No, yeah, they have 11 tag outs total for the season. That more than doubles the league average.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at it as well.
That means that the Super Saiyans are tagging out twice as much as the average tag out for the league. That's crazy. Think about how much health that gets you back.
I don't know how they're doing it, to be honest.
I don't have a clue either. It's not something we have control of.
I'm kind of a bit nervous for when it ends. Because when it ends, it's going to be a bit tricky. Yeah, I mean, it was a good match, but I'm quite relieved we won now, especially considering the other results of this week puts us pretty strongly on top of North Korea.
It does.
Oh yeah.
You are in quite a commanding position.
Which we will probably get to in a second as we go to the other matches. But the match next is Margins versus Rugrats.
Well, a South Kai divisional match, and just
was it?
Not a
I forgot about that.
Yeah, you never think of the Margins in South Kai.
You know what? No, don't be silly.
Yeah, but no, it's keeping South Kai actually pretty close.
I don't think. I think obviously Rugrats have deducted this themselves. The Halo experiment probably wasn't worth it.
No, probably was not. Now, and here's the thing, though. I think the Gotenks experiment was worth it.
Oh, yeah.
I think Gotenks worked well. I mean, the thing is, and we thought about this during the match, if he had had those 2 extra bars of health, that could have been a win.
Yeah, no, agreed.
It very easily could have been a win.
I understand the theory behind, giving Gotenks Halo, but if you think about the way that his actual fusion works, right, you're effectively losing 20k health. Right off the bat, you've just not got that to start with anymore, because one player is losing 10k health. You're forced to put Halo on the other player because of the way Gotenks works. So you're then losing another 10k health on that player. So not only are you basically giving them less health to do their own damage and less opportunity to fuse, you're also meaning that when they do fuse, they're gonna have a huge amount less health to actually play around with.
Without the benefit of Halo. Without the benefit of 2 Halos.
Yeah, without the benefit of 2 Halos. It's not like it's halved and then it's halved again. It's just, it is halved. And I think that's a huge mistake, and that was a huge oversight on their part. It was a nice idea in and of itself, but I think it wasn't considered properly.
Well, it comes down to the same problem with Halo. It's fantastic if it works.
Yeah.
If there was a human behind that player, Halo would be fantastic on Gotenks. But there's not a human behind that player. So, yeah, but all said and all done, I still think there's some really good things the Rugrats can take away from this.
Oh, yeah.
Keep Gotenks, you take off Halo, and that match might have really might have been yours.
Well, if you look at the stats, GT Goku did great, over 40k of damage. Cell Jr. did over 40k. It was only Kid Trunks not doing great at all that really is a clear indicator of how badly they did. And Spopovich doing really well.
How much damage did Gotenks do?
Gotenks,
66k.
Yeah.
36?
66.
66.
Oh, 66. So Gotenks
did
himself...
well.
Yeah, Gotenks himself did well.
Yeah.
But if you think about what his standard is, which is about 90k, you're looking at basically a third of the amount of effective damage there, which is a huge amount when it comes to winning those engagements.
And the thing is, and again, think of how much more damage he could have done with 2 extra bars of health. You could have added easily 10 to 20, at least 1,000 damage to that score.
Yeah.
So I think that, like I said, I think that the Rugrats, I think honestly, this was a loss, but this wasn't necessarily a throwaway week. I think that you did some good things. I think bringing Goatings out was a great idea.
Yeah,
I think that you just, yeah, and you can replace, and think about it this way too. You take off Halo, what can you add in those 4 points that will help increase that number?
Yeah, I mean that's going to make him pretty scary.
Yeah, if you build Gotenks correctly, then he is a...
And GT Goku did good on a melee build. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're always right.
Yes, we are. Never fucking question us. Apart from when those two are wrong, never question me.
On to the margins.
In fact, when you address our questions, if you go ahead and put a tagline at the bottom, my malevolent rulers or whatnot, we're fine with that. We really are.
In fact, we're so fine with it.
I'm not malevolent. I'm being very kind and generous in allowing you to live.
Well, screw you. I'm malevolent.
Oh dear.
You've not mastered this diplomatic lying thing, have you?
It's called manipulation.
Crap. No.
Yeah.
Bad squeak. Bad squeak.
Oh dear. The margins. We've gone to the margins. They did fine. Spopovich was probably the one that won it.
I love that. They did
Well,
fine.
only one person did over 40k damage.
Yeah,
Right.
Spopovich was insane.
He pretty much won on the match hands down, which is weird if you talk about the margins. Spopovich.
It is. It
One on
is.
the
Well,
Spopovich
Margin
right
Vegeta
now,
wasn't in, so...
I
you know.
guess.
I mean, for Spopovich to have an average of 61,000 right now is crazy. It's really crazy. This is
Yeah,
Spopovich.
I know. What's he doing?
You know, the scary thing is, when you say that, is, yeah, he has an average of 61,000 damage, but he's 8th. Like, he's low top 10.
Right.
This guy's good, but there are people that are way better, and that's terrifying.
It makes it even scarier.
I know.
But, I mean, I don't really know about what to say about Margin. Obviously, they won, which is good, but
Right.
the other players, I mean...
Okay.
The other players were genuinely uninspiring.
Here's the way I look at it. Yeah, yes, they won, and that's always good, and that's really what matters in the end. But the same kind of reverse applies to them. If they hadn't have gotten that 2-bar handicap, they probably, or a very good chance, they wouldn't have won. So you really, like, if you're the Majins, you cannot be sitting back on your heels going, "It's fine, we got this." No,
Yeah,
you really need to be looking at your team going, "Okay, we eked out a win."
You have to look at if you look at damages here, right? Team total for the Rugrats, 176,000, right? Team total for the Margins, 187,000. You had 20k health on that. That is
Yep.
them dead. They're gone. You know, they're gone with an easy bar of health on that. You know, and if you think Gotenks might have tagged or something else, you know, would have worked better for the Rugrats in that, that's a convincing win.
So, I mean, that was, I guess what the conclusion is just that match was closer than you originally expect if you watch it. Just on face value, it's a lot closer than you'd think.
And I'm not trying to, like, in any way, shape, or form, take away the Majin's victory. I just want to make it clear, in case, and I'm sure they've probably been thinking about this themselves, but make it very clear to you guys that there is a clear reason how you could a way you could have lost, and this is not a time for you to sit back and think, the Majins are good, we've got this. No. You guys need to still tweak them. You need to work them. You have such a powerful team there. You really, really do. Especially now that Spopovich has come into his own. All you need to do is find out how to make it work together, and you will be back in North Kai next season. I swear, if you can figure that out, the Majins will be an amazing team.
Stay away. The next match is Cold versus Dragon Ball Warriors. This was an interesting
Cold
match.
finally managed to pick up a win.
Considering Dragon Ball Warriors are, I think, the most powerful team in the league.
Yep.
Even after that loss. In fact, even after that loss.
They're ranked #1 for most damaging team in the league, and by quite a bit, actually. Okay, well, not really, but if you look at, like, the Team 16, the Boos, have an average of 190,000 damage per match.
Yeah.
The Dragon Ball Warriors have an average of 249,000 per match.
Pretty scary.
And that's after only doing 125,000 this week. Now, here's the thing that's really interesting about this match, right? Metacooler, write him off. He's just crap. Cold needs to do something about him.
Right.
You know, he got better towards the end of last season. He actually was starting to be at least a bit of a threat. But with the exception of, like, I think 1 B2, maybe 2, in that match, he was abysmal. The rest of the team was phenomenal. The rest of the team was really, really good. Like, everybody there easily taking down a player. I mean, Frieza wasn't as good as you'd expect him to be, but he was still...
Still 65,000 points of damage, Frieza.
Frieza needs to work on his aim. Frieza's fired out, I think, 19 B2s and only hit with 9 of them.
I don't think
he's got like a 40-something.
It was 6. He fired out 6 and hit with 1.
Well, I know. I mean overall. I mean for the season.
Oh, okay. Then we have a Luke. That's safe.
Hang on, I got it.
Yeah, it's not
fired out.
impressive.
I'm sorry. He's fired out a total of 25 B2s and hit with 10 of them. He's got a 40% completion rate. Still better than Cooler, though, who's sitting there at a 33%.
In fact, Metacooler is actually the best.
Mecha Frieza is at 25, but I mean, like you said, it's... Well, no, wow, Mecha Frieza... I thought it was Metacooler. No, Mecha Frieza has a 25% completion. So Team Cold needs to work on their aim. But a part of that,
Team Cold gets their aim sorted.
Part of that is, too, that, well, at least, like, Frieza has a lot of those really thin B2s that are easy to miss with. Mecha Frieza doesn't, though, so I don't know.
Well,
I don't know why
he throws out ultimates all the time. He's got 75% hit rate with his ultimates, so that's probably the reason why.
That's true.
He doesn't have any energy left to do anything else, I guess.
No, the Dragon Ball Warriors overall as a team, though, were very, very
if you look at their stats, it's like 40k, and the fact they didn't even have Narm, who is probably the...
And like all of their players paid for themselves in terms of damage. It's just you're up against a team that has that health advantage.
And what should be pointed out is that they are ranked #1 most damaging team in the league, even though their team naturally does the least amount of damage of it.
Yeah.
Because all of their characters, and we're not talking huge numbers here, but all of their characters, for the most part, when they punch you, they do a little bit less damage than the average character. Their B2s are a little bit weaker. So, and this is just naturally speaking. But here's how they get those numbers. B2 completion rates, 60%, 80%, 91%, 64%, 64%. Every single character on their team has a better than 60% hit rate with their B2s. That's outstanding.
I don't know. I think...
What's also scary is that Dragon Ball Warriors are the most damaging team in the league right now, right? What's terrifying about that is that they've only won 2 games. They've still managed to lose 2 games.
I know.
Despite being the most damaging team in the league. That is insane.
Yeah. It's weird how knowing the statistics brings out kind of new info about how it all works.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I love it.
Because
it gives us way more insight into how the league works, and you know, I'm a number junkie anyway, and imagine how much helpful this is for the team captains. Look at that. They can go to Dragon Ball. Yeah, Dragon Ball Warriors can look at that now and say, okay, look, we're fine in the damage, so that's not the issue. What is it that's causing us to lose these matches? And they can concentrate on other aspects.
Yeah.
Because, and for them, honestly, I'm glad I'm not in their position, because I'd be sitting there going, look at the damage, why are we losing?
I mean, it must be bad luck on their part. I don't know what else it is. I'd be so annoyed if I was their coach. But, I mean, it was funny because Cold hasn't actually won a game before then, despite being a North guy.
No.
And they were going up against the most damaging team in the league. So I don't envy that coach either.
No, I don't envy Team Cold's coach in this at all. I mean, you're looking at a team that is reasonably good, provided you get them working. You know, provided you actually have the entire team working. I mean, despite the fact that Frieza is still a very good player, you can't rely on him to just win matches for you. It's not going to happen. You know, with the exception of a very, like, I think maybe 1 or 2 cases maximum over the past few seasons, you don't get games that are won just by one player generally. Not, you know, outright. You still need that contributing damage.
Right.
From at least one other player, preferably more than that. And I think that's something that Team Cold is certainly lacking in terms of consistency at the minute. and just getting like that whole team together. Because, you know, if you look at someone like Mecha Frieza, people are terrified of him, but if you actually think about it, he's not that reliable. You know, he might throw out some decent moves, and if he hits, sure, he'll do a healthy amount of damage, but it's not actually that terrifying. You know, he's a mid-ranking player. You know, he's likely to take out at least a player or do a player of damage, but even so, he's not very consistent. He's not a very good player. You know, he'll do 90k one game and then 10k the next game. It's just
quite annoying.
Very helpful. Yeah, and actually trying to work with him is very difficult. But they need to get that consistency going, which is, you know, last season what got Team Cold to the Tenkaichi Bowl was that level of consistency. It wasn't great, but you had at least a couple of players on that team that were so good compared to the rest of the league that they were able to just take people out.
Still feeling the bruises from when we owned them in the Tenkaichi Bowl. It's got to be it.
Not recovered from it.
Anyway, the next match is Blades versus Namek. Now, in terms of rankings, I mean, I'm not sure if they're in the same division. They are in the same division, actually. So this is quite significant. But especially in terms of if we look at stats, this is quite an interesting match. These are both two of the most damaging teams, if not the top two. Oh, not top two, but I mean, we got two elite players in Blades, and then Namek's, which is second top in damage overall, going head to head, and the Blades were victorious.
With the most people. The Blades also had the most people in the top.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, the Blades were victorious there, which is not what I was expecting, actually. I was expecting it to be a bit closer. I mean, if we look at the stats, Namek's did 176k, and Blades did 204.
Yeah,
it was a very convincing win for the Blades.
It was an incredibly convincing win for the Blades. I think part of it was that the Nemeks were not up to their usual self.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I think that they were doing great, but yeah, the Blades. I mean, like Rebel was pointing out, they have 3 people in the top 10. They're a good team. They're on fire right now. They're doing really well.
Yeah, you're always going to have at least 2 of those people in a match at any one time.
Right. One thing I do want to point out, and Piff brought this up in the match, and this is a really good thing to point out to people. Tambourine, #1 ranked player in the league, highest average done of anyone in the league, and with the exception of the 2 ranks right below him, once you get to rank 4, he is over 13,000 points ahead of everyone between rank 4 and below, as far as an average goes.
Yeah.
And all of this is from a defense-heavy build. He has nothing increasing his offensive power. It is all defensive. And that says a lot.
It says a lot about build. I think it says more about the player and the AI, actually.
While I agree with you, I was going to be my next part. I'm not suggesting that you slap a defensive build on everyone and they're going to perform like Tambourine. No, they still have to hit with the B2s and all that. But the thing is that we've seen statistically in the league defense be foregone or not as popular as offense. People care more about hitting big than they do about staying in, and it's just interesting to point out that, you know, maybe you shouldn't overlook a defensive build because it could be good for you.
I'm certainly not going to discount the value of an offensive build, but I will disagree that it's something that everybody should be looking into a huge amount. Tambourine, I personally think, is a very special case in that the way they've got his AI to work complements his build incredibly well, and just the player himself complements the build incredibly well. He is one of the few players in the league that is aggressive enough to actually make a defensive build work effectively. If he gets hit, no problem. He soaks the damage, he soaks a decent portion of the damage, and Eternal Life will start dealing with the rest. But I've mentioned this time and again about using Eternal Life. Eternal Life only works if you can keep the other player from continuing to do damage to you, and Tambourine's ideal from that. His attack rate is so quick that it's just almost impossible to respond. You know, his B2s might not be very good, but his Sumasen is just
very
fantastic.
fast.
You know, at close range, that thing is going to hit. Yeah.
Right.
And that will, you know, so if someone makes a mistake in terms of their charging up or, you know, their actions, they are going to get hit by it. You know, his rush isn't too bad. And generally, that attack -1, because he has good combos and a reasonable attack rate, that attack -1 doesn't actually make that much of a difference. You know, if you look at a big, stompy, slow player, that kind of build is going to be far less effective. You know, and then if you look again at, you know, someone who enjoys spending their time staying back and lobbing out B2s, again, it's going to be far less effective because they're not going to be able to keep that pressure up and avoid taking that damage. It's why glass cannons are so popular. You know, you jump out, you do, you know, 40, 50,000 points of damage, and you've paid for yourself.
Right.
The quicker you can do that, and the quicker you can throw that damage out, the better, because most players just don't have that kind of staying power.
And I 100% agree with everything you're saying. I do think that there are things that teams can take away from this, because a lot of teams have someone who's not as good as Tambourine. But and a perfect example would be, say, for example, let's take Krillin or Fasha. And I think Fasha, they've already tried some defensive build. But they, you know, each team has a player like that. Krillin might be able to benefit from a build like this too, because Krillin's got the aggressiveness. Krillin doesn't have the great B2s, but he does. Basically, the longer he's on the field, the more damage he does. And it might actually be more effective, because the way they've got Krillin built right now, it's all for, you know, he's got Eternal Life, but everything else is for melee damage. And it might be more effective for them to go full defensive and keep Krillin on the field longer. All I'm saying is that the numbers are very telling that a fully defensive build is ranked #1 in the league. Doesn't mean that everyone should run to total defensive, but it does mean that every team should stop and take a look and see if this is something that can help their team.
Agreed. I think it's also, on top of that, worth looking at who is next in the rankings. I'm just as a counterpoint to that. You have Android 17, aggressive. Janimba, I'm pretty sure.
I was looking at
Janimba's
Janimba's build actually.
Might be slightly different.
What
is his build?
I think all the Blades ones are actually incredibly broad builds. But if we go Janimba's, it's defense +2, Dende's healing, so defensive, fighting spirit, indignation, and savior.
Yeah, then it's a very interesting build, and it's done them very well. Then you have Fasha, who's pretty aggressive.
Yep.
As a general rule of thumb. Frieza, who certainly ought to be aggressive with the amount of health regen and stuff health back he gets. You have Tapion, who's among the most aggressive people in the entire fucking league. Cyborg Tao. What is Cyborg
He's
Tao's
also
build,
very
actually?
broad.
Again, I'm curious.
Let me have a look. It is attack 1. You've got attack up 2, defense -1, fighting spirit, and then eternal life, and then quick fast attack. Which is a good Batara. Everyone should use that Batara.
Interesting. Quick fast attack.
It's basically Master Strike without any B2 negatives. Everyone should use it.
Yeah.
Now, the secret to the Super Saiyan.
Whatever. But yeah, I mean, if we look at the Blades build, Janimba 3rd place, obviously a bit behind Tapion on everything, but he's also fairly defensive. I mean, the majority of his build is defensive, and then you got 3 points in for B2s, which is good. I mean, if we look at Namix, it's more based on melee rather than B2s, because Tambourine's obviously got good melee, and then the B2s will complement that. Janimba, it's the other way around. I think the melee, complements the B2s quite well, which is why it's a smart move to put him on these sorts of things.
Right, I seem to recall that a really of his damage was coming from those range
yeah,
showers.
Definitely.
No,
If we have a look at the B2s fired for this week, he fired 7, hit with 5, which is very good, yeah. I think, well, do we want to talk about Cyborg Tao? We always need to talk about Cyborg Tao.
I mean, he's a fantastic player, and definitely a lot better than I was expecting him to be.
No, wow. I think he's a bit
7th in the league. Bit shit.
Wow. Party.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just not good enough. I don't know.
The next match then we will go to is Androids versus Ginyu Force. If we go Androids.
Yeah.
Oh, those androids. 17, so impressive so far in this league. He has 10.
Uh,
God
It's
damn
not
it,
me.
HJK.
who's playing
What?
DBZ League? Oh,
Me.
Jesus.
God
No,
damn it, HJK.
I'm testing something. Leave me alone.
No, you're making noises. God, what's wrong with you?
Whatever, Mister. I used to play FIFA while doing Zcast.
That was
wasn't
Dantos'
me.
swoop.
Well, it was one of you two.
No, it
oh, it was
wasn't.
Dantos. Right,
Yeah.
it was Dantos, wasn't it? I still
God.
remember. I still remember that commercial where you guys were sitting there. You actually made a commercial out of it where you both were just doing something
God's
else
sakes.
completely.
What was it like before I got here? Oh God.
That was awesome.
Wow.
We used to have so much fun.
I hate you. Anyway, Android
I
17.
know.
You were saying, Squee?
I was saying that his B2s are amazing. Now, there are actually 7 characters in the league that have 100% completion rates, so I don't want it to sound like he's special in that regard. However, he is the player who has thrown out and hit with the most B2s and still had 100% completion rate. After week 4, he has thrown out and hit with all 10 B2s. That's very impressive, and it's very easy to see why he does it. He doesn't fire those things until he's right in your
Yeah.
face. I don't think I've ever seen 17 this season, at least, fire off a B2 from halfway across the map. It just hasn't happened.
Well, if it has happened, he's hit with it. So
Yeah.
I don't think anyone who's got 100% is anywhere near 10 as well. It just goes to show you that he's pretty accurate.
Right.
Not very,
Yeah.
Frieza needs to take lessons.
Well, it is the really interesting thing, actually, for the... I'm just looking at this. The top 10 players, the most they've been rotated out
yeah, I know.
once. Most of those players in the top 10... sorry, not most of them. All of those players, the most they've been rotated out is one. It's 1 week. That is it. Those players are doing about 60k and over every single time they come out, basically.
So that's an interesting thing, because that means that we may eventually, now that we're starting to get into the 5th, 6th, and 7th week, see those characters drop quite a bit, because sooner or later, you're going to have to start rotating them out. And it's going to give other characters a chance. So this
Yeah,
might
potentially.
be...
I mean, it's done by average damage done.
Right.
So maybe
But, I mean, this
it might
might
just keep
be a
them more
little
secure
bit-
at the top.
That's true too, yeah. But still, it'll be interesting to see what happens once they start having to force. I've personally always taken a view of rotate out match-to-match bases. But there are those people that say, we want our strongest people in as long as we can to get as big of a lead as we can, and then once they start having to rotate them out, things get difficult. And it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to see which teams are following that philosophy.
Yeah, well, so far it looks to me like Valkyries, Cold, and Blades all have their strongest player. Haven't rotated them out yet. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens when those players actually do have to be rotated out.
Wait,
Especially for Team Cold.
Aurelia's been rotated out.
Fascia's
really isn't in the top 10.
Yeah.
Oh,
Fascia.
Fascia. Okay, I'm sorry. Again, without thinking of the stats, when you think the strongest player, you don't think Fascia.
Really is 11th, so she's nearly there.
Yeah, and she's still pretty good. But no, it'll be really interesting to see, especially for like Team Cold. Like the Blades, I don't think it'll be a problem. You know, they've rotated out Janimba, they're still doing just fine. You know, once they rotate out Tapion, they'll still have Janimba, they'll still have Tau. You know, they'll still be an incredibly strong team. In that, I don't think they have to worry in the slightest about that. But if you look at Team Cold, I mean, where's their next player coming from? I mean, their next player is Cooler, I think, all the way down in 29th. So yeah, there's their next player. So Team Cold losing Frieza, that's going to be a devastating hit for them. You know,
Right.
How impressive are they going to be able to be without Frieza?
I have
on the field?
noticed something. This probably won't be in the Zcast. Aeta has been rotated out weeks 1, week 3, and then week 4. You can't rotate a player out 1 week after another.
Oh yes.
Say what?
I was-
Ada was
That is
rotated
Yeah.
out 2 weeks in a row?
Yeah.
Oh,
Week 3 and
no,
week 4.
no. Okay. Burninator actually sent me a message about this. He messed up the spreadsheets.
Oh, right, okay.
Hang on. Tell
Oh,
HJK
did Aita
if
Aita didn't have to come out. That was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, if he brings up that Ader wasn't rotated out this week, but Jiro was, I made a small mistake on the
fair
spreadsheet.
enough. Okay.
So
Oh, right.
Back to Zcaster.
So let's have a look at where are the androids?
I'm glad I remembered.
Well done, Squee.
Yeah. Yeah, Aita didn't actually come out in... Oh, Aita didn't actually have to step on the field in week 4. So, yeah. It was that dominating a win for
Yes,
the
it was.
androids.
Wow.
And I just...
If we look, I would look at Ginyu's builds, but
Ginyu.
week 4 is not here.
He did damage someone.
God.
Ginyu and Goldo, both under 20,000
Yeah.
damage.
Oh,
Berta,
Jesus. That's a really poor performance.
just... I know. Raccoon was their best player that match. That was how badly
For everyone
Ginyu
who
Force
obviously
did.
doesn't have the stats up whilst you're listening to this, the average for most teams, even ones that have lost, is about 140. And if you're ones that win will be over that, and there'll be differences. Ginyu only did 90,000 points of damage in that game. It's about 50 to 60k less than the average.
Yeah. I don't know.
Luckily, it wasn't a
what to say,
divisional
really.
match, but and they're still.
That is lucky, but even so, the Ginyu Force are... I mean, it's kind of lucky for Ginyu
They're still
that
joint
they are
top.
in South Kai.
Which is good for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. I mean, they're in... so far we're in week 4. So there's there are gaps developing, but nothing insurmountable yet. Yeah,
Whatever.
always, but whatever.
That's different.
So, they are. It's a good it's a good example of why the division system works well, is because of the fact that Ginyu are. I mean, their team's been doing relatively abysmally, to be perfectly
Let me
honest.
have-
They're not.
Let's have a look
They're
at
not
the
doing well
all-round
all.
scores. They've got a decent all-round score. They've got 200k, which isn't. It's better than the Gohans.
That is their average damage, but as we've already seen, the average damage, if you look at the Dragon Ball Warriors, doesn't actually
that's
matter. It matters to a limited degree, but at the end of the day, if we look at the rankings, Super Saiyans are 4th, right?
Top of the
and they're
league.
top of North Kai. The Gohans are below the Ginyu Force, not by much, but slightly below the Ginyu Force, and have the same win-loss record, right?
Right.
If you go to... Sorry, I'm looking at various teams. You have Boo and Derp and Saiyans below that, all of them with 1 victory. So it's not like you're not going to get wins if you do less damage at all. It's entirely dependent on how the whole team performs.
I mean,
look at the Valkyries. They're ranked 11th for most damaging team, and they're 4-0.
Yeah.
they're not.
Absolutely.
Obviously, they're not
Yeah.
completely interrelated. But if you're doing 90,000 points of damage in one match, that's a loss. I mean,
Yeah.
at that degree, you cannot
that is a
win
definite loss.
if you're
You
doing
can't
that
win
amount of
with that.
damage. So it's related in a way, but it can't guarantee a match. Unless
is
it's
related in a way, but
ridiculous damage lost or not done or whatever. But I still have faith in Ginyu. I'm sure they'll do fine next week. Who are they playing next week? They'll be fine. Next match, Muscle versus Earth Defenders.
Haha.
That was the only victory. Well, that's only because bloody Roshi was on Muscle. He told him not to before.
Yeah. Like, don't do it.
I'll break all of
You
you
do it.
if you touch my house.
Yeah, Earth Defenders. It's so sad because it's not like our players are abysmal normally. It's just that we can't seem to find a way to pull
It's
out
a tricky
those
team.
wins.
It's been a tricky team.
It is. It's been a tricky team from the start. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I chose them. I like fixer-uppers, you know what I mean? But, like, right now, our team, we had such high hopes. Right now, we got Chaozu at 53, Tien at 34, Mid Goku at 49, Yamcha at 24, Krillin at 44. No one in our team is above 24th.
You're still 8th, though.
And last week, Yamcha was in 5th place. He was in the top 10. So that shows you just how abysmal. He dropped 19 places.
Yeah, Yamcha did less than 20,000 points of damage. Yamcha was crap.
Yeah. But see, and here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, and here's what's so baffling for us. If you look at our average damages, 41, 50, 46, 37, and 39, those aren't horrible averages. If you're above 40, you've got a decent average.
Yeah.
But we're at 1 and 3.
I mean, again, you can't relate the two, but it looks like you got to work. If you're going just by stats, Chaozu, Mid-Goku, I think Mid-Goku suffers from consistency problems anyway, so that's going to be awkward. Maybe Chaozu to an extent as well,
right.
But I mean, they look like weak links at the moment, in general.
I'd say, in terms of actually being able to rely on your players, Yamcha's a huge weak link. You know, you've no idea which Yamcha's going to turn up.
Nope.
You don't know whether it's going to be the Yamcha that turns around and does 90,000 points of damage and throws out a million Wolfang Fists and Kamehamehas, or whether it's going to be the Yamcha that sits there drooling. I mean, you have no idea. So yeah, I don't know. I think in that, more than anything, it's an AI. It's partially a build thing. It is partially a build thing, but it's also a huge amount of
I
an
think
AI
it probably
thing
is more
as well.
AI.
And you know, yeah. I mean, if you look at, I mean, Yamcha's on TNAI, and in theory, TNAI is ideal, but that sort of theory very rarely actually.
Well, and the thing
out.
is, it's not like they haven't been working on it. They've had they've had Yamcha on many different AIs, and the problem is we've never been able to find one that's consistent. Vegeta AI is great sometimes. TNAI is great sometimes. Even Broly AI was okay sometimes. I mean, they've tried a gambit of, and over the last 4 seasons, I've tried too. We can't find a single AI where he'll be consistent.
Yeah, and part of that is not. It's not just, you know. It's part of that is saying, okay, this character is just not going to do consistently well in this regard. So, you know, one of the big focuses for Yamcha a lot of the time is a reasonably quick charge rate or high damaging B2. So either B2s that do an awful lot of damage or B2s that he throws out a ton of.
Right.
Which is great in theory, but it might not be the best. It might not be the best thing for him to do. It may be that Yamcha actually performs better with a either defensive build that lets him stay in for a while and just do charging and do fighting and launch stuff when he can. You know, it might be that he's a tambourine-like player, but it also might be that he is just a good aggressive melee character. You know, you could look with Yamcha at doing something like a melee build with Indomitable Fighting Spirit or Active Heart, where he actually uses melee to gather energy, and then uses that energy that he's gathered from melee to do B2s. That is certainly a thing you could consider doing, but that requires a complete switch, which is something, you know, there's a lot of different angles for stuff like B2 characters and more aggressive characters that you can look into, and I think people get bogged down on this whole we want them to do B2s and there's 2 ways of doing that. There isn't. There's a lot of ways of actually getting key up, and I think people overlook that.
I'm not going to completely I'm going to hold out hope for Yamcha yet. I mean, everyone gets an off week. That was a bad one, but he has done well in the previous 2. He did 50,000 in week 1.
Well, but see, here's the issue with Yamcha. Is even when he did well, like last week, he did really well half the time. And it was just that half the time he did really, really well. The other half of the time he flew around like a derp.
Yeah, and we were just lucky that he didn't get his ass kicked.
Yeah, we were sitting there going, if Yamcha had just been there the whole match, it would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But he wasn't. And when he realized he was in a match, he was great, and then he would just get distracted.
I mean, even though, I mean, you did get distracted, doing 81,000 points of damage, that's pretty much paying for yourself twice over. I'd be looking at Krillin, to be honest. And Chaozu.
Krillin's actually not doing that bad, though. I mean, he's about what he's always been, for the most part. And if you notice, almost all our matches where we've had Krillin in, Krillin's been winning his one-on-one matchups and giving the team a lead. Just we haven't been able to keep him. Chaozu's a big.
Which is a shame.
I think
Chaozu's a big
Chaozu and
problem.
Tien are
Goku's-
actually your weaklings more than anything.
Mm-hmm. Well, Tien's been a bit more stable since they put him on the defensive build, but stable doesn't. Okay, and this is kind of a thing. Whereas Tambourine, you put him on a full defensive and he goes crazy. Tien stays in there and he does okay, but he doesn't have the same type of damage output that Tambourine has.
That's true. Even though,
Which is what we were hoping for in the first place.
I don't. Yeah, I mean, he's got good B2s though. Actually,
He's great at crushing dreams. I mean, he's fantastic at that. So, what? No, I'm done with you.
that was pretty funny, to be fair. Unfortunately, he needs to do that every week.
That was quite entertaining.
Actually, no, he doesn't. He needs to stay away from that ultimate. I ran the numbers on that ultimate because here's the problem. He does, with his first hit, he'll do about 5,000 damage, and with every consecutive hit, he'll do about 2,000 to 3,000 points of damage. But every time he throws one out, he loses 2,000 points of health. Meaning that his net damage, usually for an ultimate, even though it'll look impressive, oh my god, he did 15,000, 16,000 points, he also lost about 8,000 points in the process.
Fine.
So, his
Which
ultimate...
is why
Yeah,
you
all
should
match.
continue doing
All
it.
match.
Hey,
I don't understand. Yeah.
So I mean, when you look at the overall net damage, you're looking at an ultimate that does about 8,000 overall points of damage, and you know it's just not a good ultimate anyway. You look at it. He can do the same amount of damage with one B2 and use less energy, and that's if he fires off all his neo
Yeah, I
tributes.
guess. Well, if we go to muscle as well, at least for this week, they all did pretty well, apart from Roshi. Android 13 obviously stands out as the top muscle man, but you got Garlic Jr., who's starting to be a bit more consistent now. Good job, guys. 46,000 is very good, considering what he was like. And
Yeah,
then you got
considering he was a
Bojack,
problem
who he's
child, yeah.
pretty much a standard character for muscle, nothing special, and you could see him doing that there. If we look at his B2s though, I seem to remember, yeah, fired 6 off, hit with 4. Could have been trap shooters. So I don't know how much.
Yeah. I
Don't know
think
how
most
much to look
of
into
them were
that.
trap
So,
shooters.
but I mean, fairly good win for muscle, really.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was good. I didn't. To be honest with you, I don't know. Muscle is a team that's not that is they're 3-1.
Right.
Their players are all, with the exception of Bojack, they're currently about paying for themselves generally, right? But you don't have the Android 13 that you should have. You don't have the Android 13 that is consistently doing, that is consistently either rescuing matches or putting you so far ahead that you cannot lose in a million years. Yeah, that is the Android 13 that we've seen in the past. And in order to compete with the top teams, that is going to be the Android 13 that Muscle need. Or Muscle is going to have to figure out a way of getting the rest of their team up to par with those teams. Because Muscle doesn't have a single player in the top 15. Roshi is the highest. And Roshi
They are
just about
9th
makes the top 20.
out of all the teams, below the Earth Defenders, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. And who have Muscle,
Ooh,
who
let
have
me have a
Muscle been
look.
facing, actually? Lost to the Gohans, beat Namek, beat Derp, and they've
And
now
beat
beaten the
Earth
Earth Defenders. Yeah. So they beat the Gohans. Sorry, they lost to the Gohans.
Beat
It's
Namek.
not entirely unsurprising. Gohans are pretty scary. They beat Namek.
I
which
think that's quite good.
wasn't hugely surprising. No, it's very good. It's certainly something they should be proud of. But then you've got Derp, who's starting to struggle, and Earth Defenders, who have always been struggling, and continue to do so. So, Muscle should be pleased with what they've currently got, but they have a long, long way to go to get anywhere near where they used to be.
Right.
And I think Season 3 and Season 4 was a...
Season 3
Season
was when they
3
were doing amazing.
Season 4?
Before we nerfed them.
Yeah, Season 3, yeah, sorry, yes, sorry, I'm getting my timelines mixed up. I don't know what number we're in at the minute. I thought there was another season between...
Yeah, there was Rebel. There was
No,
one
Season
other
4
one.
in this one, fucking hell. There was season 4. This is incredible. No, for some reason
Jesus
I thought we were on season 6.
Wow.
I'm not doing.
Sorry,
very
who
well
was good at
the minute.
maths?
Leave me alone.
Who got 90% on maths?
I've got 89% and then 90%. So fuck you. I think the standard is in like 30%. So you can go fuck yourself. But yeah, so they're doing. Yeah, they've got a long way to go to get anywhere near what they had in season 3, and they need to do that because they need a team more than anything. But season 3, they relied on a couple of players. Yeah, they relied on a couple of players with pretty much unchanging builds for the most part. In season 4, they tried to take that same principle with certain restrictions that they had on those players. Yeah, and with a slightly different team. And that was a huge mistake, and that's put them just behind the curve. And they need to do something to... Muscle ought to be a Northkite team. Yeah, I'm sorry, with those players, Muscle ought to be a Northkite team. Currently, they're on their way to doing that. But so far, at 3-1, not doing badly, but they haven't faced any of the teams that I would consider... Sorry, they haven't faced and beaten any of the teams that I would consider to be the biggest challenges for them. Yeah, they've not faced Dragon Ball Warriors, they've not faced the Valkyries, they've not faced the Blades, they've not faced the Super Saiyans, and they've not faced Boo. And I think the true telling of how their season's gonna go is when they come up against those teams, those top-notch teams with players that are just overall doing better than theirs. And whether or not Muscle as a team can actually do what we would expect of them, and I'm doubtful at the minute. I don't think they've progressed enough to. I don't think if you put Muscle right now up against the Blades, I think Blades would win 9 times out of 10. If you put Muscle up against the Super Saiyans right now, I'd probably plumb for the Super Saiyans winning 10 out of 10 in all seriousness. So. I wouldn't rate Muscle's chances against the top teams at the minute. I think they're probably deserving of the place in.
I think they're making progress though. Definitely more progress than they were making last season.
Definitely. No, definitely. I mean, they're changing stuff up. They've got Garlic Jr. to work. They've got Roshi doing pretty well. They've started to get Broly to stop being inconsistent. They need to work on Bojack, and they need to get Android 13 to a better level.
Right.
In all seriousness. I mean, Android 13's good, don't get me wrong, Android 13's good and he's pretty tough, but for a player that you expect to start turning matches around, he's only done 45,000 points of damage. As an average, that's his average. It's good average, don't get me wrong, but it's middle of the league, it's middle of the table.
Right.
So, Muscle, and with, tag outs...
They've got a hard division as well.
They need to work on them.
I think, I was going to say, I think Muscle, they've got room to grow, but like HJK was saying, I mean, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. If you finally got Garlic Jr. working and Roshi working, just get your rest of your team back up to where they were, and you're fantastic.
No, absolutely. I mean, even with those players working now as they are, they're joint second in the league, or joint third actually, because joint third in the league. So they're doing well.
Right.
But like I said, I don't think they've faced the toughest opposition yet. So. They're doing third in league because you have 2 people in first.
It's weird. You guys know I was testing something. It looks like Master Strike and Quick
No, they
Fast
don't.
Attack
I've already
do not
tested
stack.
that.
Isn't that crazy? Oh, well, that's one thing I was wondering because we were talking about how Quick Fast Attack was like Master Strike.
I know.
How do they not stack? That's crazy. So
I mean,
really
I see people with builds that have both. I'm like, oh no, what are you doing? Don't do that. I mean, it's a fair enough assumption. You'd assume they'd stack.
Well, that's something we should let people know, because most people are going to think you put those on and they stack. That's what I thought. That's why
Super
I
Saiyan trade secret. We couldn't say that outside of the Zeke house. This is a.
You say Super Saiyan trade secret.
Anyway, next match, the last match, is Gohans versus Derp. Gohans were victorious in this match. Very, very dominating win.
Yes.
God,
Poor Derps.
God,
and I mean, they're not a horrible team. They're doing well overall. I mean, They're not. I can't really say that though, because last season they were.
Yeah,
better than
they're
they're
joint
being right now.
last
Mm-hmm.
at the moment. Yeah, so they're having a bit of a hard time. They're in a harder division, to be fair, as well, which may change things up. But even if they were in South,
True.
they'd still be.
To be honest with you, I don't think saying that they're in a tough division doesn't actually make any difference until we get to the end of the season. Because you play every team in the league, it doesn't matter. What matters is the teams that you've actually played against. I mean, who have? Let's have a look. Who have Dirt played against? Right? They've played against Namek, they lost. They've played against Ginyu Force, which they won. They played, let me see, Muscle, to which they lost, and they've just played Gohans, to which they've lost. With the exception of the Ginyu Force, none of those matches were gonna be easy for them.
Right, that's true.
Not even just on paper as teams. Only the Ginyu Force on that match was one that you would, 100% expect them to win. With the improvements Muscle's been making, I would not have said that Derp would win that hands down. I thought they would win it, but I wouldn't have said it would be a dominating victory. And I certainly wouldn't have expected them to beat the Gohans, and I don't think I would have expected them to beat Namek either, to be honest with you. So, I mean, we'll see once they start coming up against, like, the Rugrats, the Earth Defenders, I'm trying to think, maybe against Cold, and how they perform against teams that, they ought to do reasonably well against, and we'll see how that goes. But, I mean, so far, they've had a pretty tough start to the season in terms of their matches.
I mean, if we look...
And it's not getting any better in the foreseeable future, really. For the next few games, up until week 7, I don't really see them winning. Because next week they've got the Blades. Week after that they've got Androids, and then finally in week 7 they've got Earth Defenders. At which point, currently speaking, I'd expect them to win. But
I mean, Derp had
arguably
their best player rotated out this week as well, which clearly didn't help. Hercule was the most damaging player on Team Derp.
And you know what? And honestly, I don't look at that as I don't look at that as oh my god, the whole Team Derp. I look at that as, I mean, Herc's become a decent, not fantastic, but decent player. He throws out enough present bombs and hits with enough dynamic messment punches and wins every single clash he gets into that no one takes him as like a joke like they used to. He's still not. I mean, he's still
pretty easy with the right build. He's pretty easy to dominate, but he's not. He's not oh god, we've put Hercule out.
If you look at the average stuff, he's the worst average in the team, however. I mean, you got Android 19 and 57.
Well, yeah. I mean, I still think he's still the weakest link in the team, but he's gonna be, I mean, but the thing is that when Herc first started the league, if he had an average of 15,000 damage, it would have been good. Now he's a decent player. He's not anywhere near last in the league, which is what you would have expected. Right now, where is he? Where is Herc? He is 77th.
The closest to him, actually, in terms of the team, is a 69th. Supreme Kai, 4,000 points of damage average more. It's nothing. That's absolutely nothing in the grand scheme of things. It's terrible. The next one up is Dodoria at 34,000. The one after that is
Salza, I think. Then it's 19.
Scroll up now. It's irritating. Where's Salza? Salza, yeah, 48,000, and 19 is at 57,000. So more than half the team is not doing well at all.
Right.
And that is a huge issue. I mean, Supreme Kai and Dodoria? I'm sorry, but those two should be your strongest players.
I agree.
Basically. Dodoria should be there at the top.
I mean, Dodoria should be, I think 19 is probably one of the strongest players, but Supreme Kai should be a powerful character.
Yeah, he should be. And yeah. They're not doing a particularly good job of that.
I mean, the thing about Supreme Kai, I mean, I was one of the people that was interested in Style of the Strong when it came out. I don't really think it's very viable as a Patara. It's good if he hits with an ultimate. Well, is it?
It's viable, but you need the right player for it.
If we look at Supreme Kai, he's fired one ultimate all season, so 4 points.
So, I'm not saying it's viable.
I'm saying it's not viable.
I'm saying it's a viable Patara.
Well, and the thing is, Well, the thing is, I'm not sure I did exactly agree with that either, because last season Supreme Kai loved throwing out those ultimates,
Yeah.
and while he hasn't been doing it the past few weeks, that's true. We're only in week 4. It's not. I mean, if you look at Supreme Kai's overall performances, he loves his ultimate. Maybe he's in a slump. Maybe they're waiting for that checkout. I would say that you're starting to get to where you need to start looking at other options, but I'm not sure I would give up on him quite yet. Because if it hits, but I don't know. Style of the Strong is 4 points. I'm not. Again, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you. I'm just saying I don't think that they.
I don't think Style of the Strong is any less viable for Supreme Kai than it is for anyone else.
Right.
Yeah, there are certain players that Style of the Strong is amazing for. Yeah, if the Saiyans can get Bardock to work properly, amazing. Yeah, if they can get Bardock to the situation where he's been reasonably recently, where he just comes out, he throws an ultimate, and there you go, and then he goes away, or he charges up and he throws another one out. They can get him to that point. Yeah, okay, brilliant. Supreme Kai is completely viable. But even for a one-time only thing, Style of the Strong is never going to make up for a good, solid build. Ever. And it depends entirely on the player you're using it on and what their tendencies are. Because the thing is, the reason Style of the Strong is good on Bardock is because that, extra damage, that 25,000 points of damage, isn't just going to be 25,000 points of damage. That is going to be 70,000 points of damage because Bardock's a fucking good player. Bardock comes out, and the rest of his game tends to be reasonably solid. His melee is really good. His B2s, especially when they put Super +2 on him, his B2s are amazing. He's a good player, and Style of the Strong really helps in that regard. But Supreme Kai right now isn't even a good player. Right now, Supreme Kai's not doing enough to justify that cost. In any way, shape, or form. It's the same thing I'd say with Eternal Life. On the vast majority of players, Eternal Life will be helpful, it'll do something, but without the right build, without actually having a good play, like if your player is constantly getting slammed, Eternal Life is not going to do anything.
Nope.
It's not going to have any impact. You need the time to have it to work. And, there's a similar thing in terms of using ultimates and B2s with Supreme Kai, and I just don't think that Style of the Strong is right now viable for him, because he's just not a good player.
I mean, I'm looking at his...
if we had the Supreme Kai that we've had in the past, where he just throws out ultimates, then of course...
Well, I'm looking at his season stats. The B2s, he's by far the worst B2 firer as well. He's fired 9, hit with 3. I mean, it's
yeah, that doesn't even. I mean, I'm thinking even validate Super +2. I'm sorry, but firing out about 33%
possibly
hit rate does not validate Super +2 ever.
So I think that Derp, they should start looking at it maybe this week. Maybe need to start looking at what else he's good at. Look at what he is good at and try and go for that. Because if he's not connecting with those B2s, and especially I didn't realize he was so bad on the B2s. Yeah, maybe his ultimate. It's time to maybe start turning him into a melee player or a defensive player or something.
Yeah, it's either that or you need to look at the AI properly and say, right, okay, we'll need an AI change. We're going to want something. You don't necessarily want to take him off B2s because his B2s are pretty good, but put him onto a different AI that's maybe more melee focused. And this is something that a lot of people forget: is melee AIs still do B2s. Some melee AIs do more B2s than technical B2 AIs do.
Right.
Because you get more of an opportunity. And even if they do less, so what? They might hit with more. If they're right close in someone's face, they might actually hit with more. Someone might say, well, what about the key factor? It doesn't matter. They're in melee. They're getting key. If they're hitting people in the face, they're getting key back. That's why Active Heart and Indomitable Fighting Spirit are so good. There are loads of different ways. As I said earlier on, there's loads of different ways of building a B2 character.
Yeah, have a look at this. I'm just looking to see who Gohan's B2 characters are, if they have any. If it's not just
Gohan?
Team Gohan, looks like. For this week at least. It was Team Gohan, yeah. I mean, if we go to his thing this week, I mean, he did really good this week. 63,000 hit with both his B2s, and I think he hit with both.
That guy was fucking insane.
Hit with both his
Team
ultimates.
Gohan was
I think.
amazing.
Yep, hit with both. Yeah, so Team Gohan.
Yeah. See what you should do with him, but Cell is strong.
I never thought of it. I mean,
Wait
one
a
of his the highest damaging combo Team Gohan did 21,000 points of damage in one combo. Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I mean, if we look at the Gohans overall,
Yep.
they're doing pretty well. Well, for this week at least, it was a clear, pretty easy win for them. Bit annoyed because the one player that didn't come out was on my fantasy team, so thanks for that, Gohans. And then if we go to the season,
yeah,
the season
forgot
one
about
actually is a bit of a different story. Ultimate Gohan, not doing great. Saiyaman's been rotated out twice, but even so, 19,000. Maybe it was just an off week, I don't know, but even so, let me have a look.
it doesn't necessarily. If you rotate
Yeah,
out
I mean that's what I was
twice,
thinking.
he might just not have tagged in for one of them.
I was trying to find
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Saiyaman, we haven't seen much of Saiyaman.
But I know
this
Ultimate
season.
Gohan
No.
has been in a fair few times, so
Yeah.
Yes, it's true. But I mean, I think the Gohans overall have been performing exactly how we expected them to. A powerful team.
that's right. That's
Not-
right.
Not the number one ranked team in the league or anything, but a powerful team. You're not the number one ranked team in the league.
Technically, I am. Technically, I
Get
am.
off that high horse.
Alphabetically.
Yeah, it is. They're joined first.
Alphabetically, I am first.
No.
Me specifically, not my team.
Nope.
I'm talking
Dragon
about
Ball
wins.
Warriors are number one ranked team in the league.
Whatever.
I'm talking about
Grr.
ranks, so get off your high horse. And if you
Again,
want to say that,
head
you're still
alphabetically.
tied, buddy boy. Yeah, I don't care. So
That's
congratulations,
right.
you start with
I'm glad you admit
uh,
I'm right.
earlier number in the alphabet. You're still not number one.
Earlier number in the alphabet.
knew we were doing
son
something
of
wrong.
a bitch.
Oh,
Oh,
yay! We are so
wait,
skilled at
what?
our jobs.
I'm
Well, I
modest.
don't know about
yeah.
you. I am.
But yeah, fairly good win for the Gohans. Good job on
my
the
job was
Gohans'
being
part. We'll
arrogant,
now
isn't
go
it?
to the rankings for the season. Starting on North Kai, we got Super Saiyans at 4 and 0, top of the league. Gohans at 2 and 2 in second place, and Boo and Cold tied for third and fourth with a score of 1 and 3. East Kai, we got Blades at 3 and 1, Androids and Namek tied at 2 and 2, and Derp at 1 and 3 in fourth. In West Kai, you got the Valkyries, who are also 4 and 0, Muscle, who are 3 and 1, Dragon Ball Warriors, who are 2 and 2, and Saiyans, who are 1 and 3. And finally, in South Kai, you got Ginyu and Margin tied at 2 and 2, Earth Defenders and Rugrats tied at 1 and 3.
I will say it's. I can just say nice, but it is more interesting to see that South Kai this season is starting off less well than they did last season.
Right.
It's sort of more what South Kai should be in a
Well,
sense. You know,
and the
they've
thing
got-
is, last season was hard to gauge because it was the first season we did 7-point Patars.
yeah, absolutely.
This season is the second season we've done 7-point Pataras, so when people fell into South Kai, it's a little bit more understandable why they're
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, absolutely.
You stay with the stereotypes we have laid upon you, South Kai.
Yeah, you sit out. Margins.
Stay there, please.
Don't you dare get out of South Kai. No, wait. Yeah. Yeah, just
Wow.
don't, please. I mean, if you want to, go ahead. Give me a laugh.
So I guess now we move
Yeah,
on to
hello.
questions from the Zcast viewers. There's no music for this one because I've already got it up, so unlucky there. The first question is by Scotty B on January the 7th, 2014, 4:32 p.m. Why do you think some teams are better than tagging at others? Do you think it might be down to AIs or just something that comes more naturally to certain characters?
Well,
Wow.
Super Saiyans are all cowards, so yeah, more naturally to other characters.
I can't say it's AIs because other teams
It
have the
isn't.
same AIs, and
Yeah.
you know they don't tag out anywhere as much. It has to be something encoded into the characters.
It's either
Somehow.
encoded into the characters, or the Super Saiyans are more lucky with the fucking RNG.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, I'm just laughing here. I don't actually have anything to contribute to that, so yeah. Wow. I was waiting for that. I was literally looking at my watch, waiting for that. So yeah. Pretty standard question. I mean,
I'm glad not to disappoint.
yeah, you can't really judge it by AIs, can you? I assume it's a random number generator, which is unfortunate.
No.
But whatever. Shh.
The RNG's awesome. Don't
God,
insult the RNG, it gets angry. Yeah. Watch the Super Saiyans never tag out, Goku just sits there drooling. And Vegeta's there just blowing bubbles.
The next question is by GamerJunkie27. January 10th, 2014, 5:59 AM. Not quite.
Hey, you've actually
Not quite
updated
6
your
o'clock,
clocks. Good luck.
but 1
well
minute
done.
until then.
Prove.
Anyway, questions. The first one is, are we ever going to see any 7-point Bataras for us to use? Or are they just too OP? Yeah.
Too OP. Here's the reason why you can't use 7-point Pataras. It is the same. Basically, what they do is they merge 2 or 3 different Pataras together that normally cost 8 or 9 points to put on and make it for a 7-pointer, which is why we don't use them. In other words,
17 Scarf.
like, what is it? Android's. Yeah, 17 Scarf or whatnot. It's just a merger of a 4-point and like another 4-point Patara.
Yeah.
That basically you get a 7-point Patara for the price of what we normally.
And it would be way too OP.
Like
I think
that,
one
so
of them
you
is
can
like a
use
power body, ultimate body combo. So,
Yes.
no thank you. So yeah, you won't be seeing those. Well, you will in the Gauntlet, maybe. I don't know about that, but maybe. Have fun with that.
Maybe.
Oh yeah, medical machine as well.
Medical machine person.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. I enjoyed that.
Go crazy.
Just like that regenerate, man. That regenerate.
Next question is, when you look at the individual player rankings with average damage dealt, are you surprised at all that the first Rugrats member you come to is Cell Jr. and he made this before Week 4 happened? I am, actually. I thought it'd be Trunks. Or anyone.
No, not in the slightest.
Maybe not Chi-Chi.
Trunks is very good melee. Like, very good sort of one-on-one character.
Right.
Trunks tends to come out, destroy someone, get destroyed. Cell Jr. tends to be... his attack rate is really, really quick. And he has decent combos. B2s aren't amazing, but still pretty good. And it's just that... it is just that fast attack rate, the fact that that thing never stops attacking. It's just always in your face. It's like a bee. It's just, ugh, get away. And no, I'm not surprised in the slightest about that.
Me either.
I mean, it's disappointing for the Rugrats that it's not GT Goku, Trunks, Goten, you know, one of their players that you would expect to be really, really powerful. But, no, I'm not surprised in the slightest. Not certainly not the way the Rugrats have been performing.
General Rugrats one. Let me have a look. Cell Jr. 26. Well, oh yeah, of course, Goten this week somehow went up, despite not playing. I don't know how that worked. Not this week. This week he was fused with Trunks.
He was...
Yeah, Goten. But I mean, he can still...
Oh, right, yeah.
That's true,
If the
okay.
players above him did worse. So...
yeah, his average average damage was
and final question. Oh no.
Sorry, I thought you said Goten.
What happens to AIs between seasons? It seems like characters don't do the same as usual if you give them the same AI and build as they usually have. No, it doesn't exist.
RNG.
We pay elves to actually go into the AI and sprinkle elf
very
fairy
annoying.
powder in them. What do you mean? What happens to them between seasons? It sits there until I turn the emulator back on.
Yeah. Basically, what happens is every time we do a new season, before the season starts, Squee makes a certain number of sacrifices to Nuffle, right?
Yeah, I do.
Now, based on those sacrifices, Nuffle does different things with the emulator and the numbers and the dice rolling within that. The unfortunate thing is that Squee can never remember what sacrifices he makes.
Well,
So
look,
the problem is he changes the sacrifices every time, and Nuffle just goes off, what the fuck? I've
And
got to do something
let's be
different
honest
this time.
here. Nuffle's very fickle.
Yeah, Nuffle is
never
a bit
wants
of
the
a
same
prick.
number. Nuffle once wanted like 6.5 sacrifice. How do I do that?
Carefully. You're not worshipping Nuffle properly, are you?
I
Come
think
on.
Neville's a bit of a dick.
I think
to be
Nuffle's
honest.
two-time maintenance is what I think it is.
Oh.
You see a lightning bolt come down.
Oh.
You see the next week of Dragon Ball Z League, people just stand there.
Yeah. I was like, you know what,
Oh,
fuck
yeah.
you guys. I'm not playing this
Oh,
game
dear.
anymore. What the hell? Yeah, that's the answer to your question, Gamer John. What did you expect? It's
is a
just,
shame, though,
It's a piece of
believe me.
code. It's
It's
just
a pain in the
random
ass.
number generator.
Well,
No,
Yes, it
no,
is.
no, it isn't. No, I think it's interesting.
I don't mind the AIs being different for different people. Like, I love the fact that you put Piccolo on one person and Piccolo on another, and they'll do different things. I just wish they were more consistent with
To an extent,
the characters
yeah.
you put them on. They are, but not as much as I would like. I would enjoy the League if it was like, because I mean, let's say for example you put Majin Buu AI on Krillin, it will consistently behave a certain way. But I would like it if it always behaved a certain way. You know what I mean? So that you could sit there and go, look, I finally found an AI that does what I want it to, kind of thing.
Yeah. Here's the thing I will say about that. And people whinge about this an awful lot. You know, the AI, they put an AI in 1 week it does one thing, 1 week it does something differently. Partly that is due to just RNG. You still have a random number generator in the background doing some shit with some numbers somewhere, and those numbers go different places and do different things, right? You still have that, regardless, yeah? But also, the situation changes. No two matches have the same situation, so your AI isn't going to behave exactly the same every single time. Now, don't get me wrong. It changes more than it should do, if, it was just a situational thing. But that is also part of it. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't take into account. They just say, oh, for fuck's sake, this AI is just really inconsistent. Well, yeah, partly, but it's also, you have to look at, it's like looking at builds and saying, okay, this build is terrible. Well, no, because it was up against something that directly countered it, or it was up against the best player in the league.
Right.
And you can't say that. So, that's why you have to use multiple matches and multiple tests to see what the AI does. It's the same reason it performs differently in a test than it does in the actual league. It's just the exact same reason.
I mean, I will say, if it did stay the same, exactly the same, and it was always consistent, it would get to a point where eventually there would be a season where it wouldn't be as interesting to watch from a spectator point of view.
No. I don't mean that I want an AI to perform exactly the same way every time. What I'm referring to is, for example, let's say you put Majin Buu on Krillin. Let's just stick with Krillin because Majin Buu is what I was thinking about. You put Majin Buu on Krillin, and 1 week he does massive melee, and then the next week he concentrates on tons of B2. That's what I don't like. I would prefer it where if you put Majin Buu on Krillin, he will consistently, majority of the time, focus on melee. That's what I would prefer. And for the most part, that is what we get. Just not as much as I would like. I mean, because you can see, a perfect example, you can see that most of the time Krillin does focus on melee, but you get those times where it's like expanding energy wave after expanding energy wave, and like Rebel said, that's the random number generator. You can't get rid of that. It's impossible. You can't. I mean, even if you were to design a game from the ground up for Dragon Ball Z League, you would still have a random number generator.
Nonsense. Blasphemy.
You might have a random number, but you'd have something similar, yeah.
Yeah.
You'd have to have some random element to it, because otherwise it wouldn't work.
Right.
And the next question is by Hazava Timeline on January 14th, 2014, 11:50 p.m. A bit before 12 at midnight. Jesus Christ, what the hell were you doing? Asking questions when you're meant to be sleeping.
What's wrong with you?
Jesus Christ.
Seems like a perfectly reasonable time to me. I don't understand. Like, bedtime's like 2 o'clock in the morning, isn't it?
Yes. The first question is, with the recent attempts at Halo, do you believe that the Batara is still useful for this league, or is it a Batara only fit for real-life players?
Yes and yes.
Yes. Exactly. I would say that 90% of the time it's really fit for real-life players. I will not, the scientific part of me, I will never say that no one in this league will ever find it useful or find a way to make it work. I will simply say that no one's done so yet.
No one's properly done so yet, no.
Might take a while, but they'll get there eventually.
And they may
Hopefully.
never. They
Fingers
may never.
crossed.
I mean, it may really be one of those things where it just doesn't work on AIs. But
I think that's unlikely, but yeah.
yeah, I think that someone somewhere could find a way to make it work. It just hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I think
Chosen one.
that's a case of it's a case of testing. It's a case of experimenting with characters because we've not seen Halo on every single character with every single possible build and every single possible AI. We've not even seen it on individual players.
And here's the thing too that I've noticed too. Most people, here's how they look at AI, Halo, and this might be the wrong way to look at it. They say, "Hey, my character naturally throws out a lot of B2s. Maybe I should put Halo on them, and they'll throw out twice as many B2s."
No.
That may not be the right way to look at it because your character's already throwing out a massive number of B2s. Putting Halo on them doesn't necessarily mean that AI is suddenly going to go, "Oh, I'll fire more than I'm already firing." The AI could be going, "Dude, I'm already fired enough." It might,
Give me a break.
It might be worth it to look at characters who don't throw out B2s, maybe because it costs so much energy, or just for whatever reason. You know, those players that have a B2 that's 3 bars and a B2 that's 4 bars, and you never see them because they just don't have the energy for it. Maybe that's the character to stick Halo on. Maybe not. I don't know. Like I said,
Yeah, I think it probably is. The
Because-
characters
Yeah,
with slower
maybe.
charge rates and/or those more expensive B2s. You stick it on someone who's got a naturally fast charge rate. Well, what's the fucking point? There isn't. You know, you're sacrificing 10,000 points of health and their longevity and ability to charge,
I honestly
so
think
that they throw out a couple more B2s. I don't know.
I honestly
that doesn't
think
make
that
any sense.
if anyone ever finds Halo working consistently on a character, I think it's going to be an android. I really do, because androids, if you think about it, androids are going to benefit the most from Halo. They're going to lose the health, but the thing is, an android has to wait for its energy to build. It just has to. I mean,
I think
if
probably someone like Jero 19 or Cell actually
Right.
might benefit the most.
well, Cell actually charges normally.
Oh, does he?
But
Does
yeah,
he not
yeah.
even have any kind of passive charge rate? God
No,
damn it.
no,
Wow.
he's the only android that charges normally. But yeah, like you said, 19
This
or
isn't
20
attention, I
or you know, like I mean, here's a perfect example. Let's say 17 throws out 2 B2s in a row. He's got no energy. He is not going to launch a B2 for 30 seconds at least, because no matter how fast you make his charge rate, it has to charge back up. Now you put Halo on him. Now that 30 seconds is cut down to 15 seconds. So I think that if Halo's going to work, eventually it's going to work on an Android. That does not mean that if you've got a bunch of Androids, start throwing Halo on them. I'm not saying that this is a win for you. I'm just saying, in my personal opinion, if it ever does work, I think, because Androids stand to benefit the most from them.
Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, it might be. Well, yeah, it's probably more likely it'll be an Android. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But it might not be.
Maybe not.
Thank you,
That's the
HJK.
thing.
Probably,
Oh, well.
but maybe not.
The
I'd like to
insight
think
is incredible.
I like to think I had a lot of insight here. The next question is, what current builds in the league did you find to be most noticeable? Maybe due to creativity, how effective it works on characters, or how horribly bad it is?
Well, I'm a negative son of a bitch. There's two.
Wow. Here we go. Right.
The first is the build that the Rugrats designed for Goshanks, which we've already been over with the whole Halo thing. I just think that's a huge mistake. You're effectively wasting 8 points. Yeah? Because you technically could have 2 characters on that one. You're wasting 8 points or 4 points. Either one, fucking huge amount of your builds. Yeah? And it's more than half of your build. And you're throwing that all on one player who's already a big risk. That is not cool. That is not cool in the slightest. And I don't know what the logic was behind that. I think it was a huge mistake. And yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that one. I've been over it enough.
I'm with Rebel on that. I think the logic behind it was, well, if anyone has the life to spare, it's Goatings. And while that theory may be true, the
Your
way
team
I
doesn't have the
personally
life,
look
though.
at it, way I personally look at it, one of Goatings' biggest strengths is his life.
Yeah.
And you're taking that away from him. So
Yeah.
I agree. That was, to me, one of the most noticeable builds. You know, it was a good experiment. Probably wouldn't try that again.
No.
I'm trying to think of positive ones, but I mean, I don't really know. I don't really know anyone else's build.
Oh god, HK, so optimistic.
Well, I haven't noticed any builds that are out there for creativity purpose.
Maybe
Most people are starting to get to where they're starting to know their teams and their characters well enough that while we don't see massive amounts of creative builds, that's because people are starting to understand what works on their characters. The better. Here's the crazy thing: the better people get, the less weird creative builds you see, and the more you look at a build and say that makes perfect sense. I see why that was there.
I guess for effectiveness, how well it works on characters, Tamarines, simply because it's a defensive build for.
I will say that personally, when this season started, if you would have told me the #1 player would have been a defense only build, I would have raised my eyebrows, because I see how that could happen, but I just would have pictured a #1 player being offense, not defense.
Yeah.
Not to the point where, oh my god, are you serious? More like just raise my eyebrows and go, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'd probably be like that too. Rebel agrees as well.
Yes, Rebel definitely agrees.
I've already expressed my opinions about Tambourine.
But yeah, so
why would I need to say anything else?
Yeah. No, I mean, that's the thing. We're starting to retread ground here. So, what's the next question?
The next question is, which character in the league do you think would be the hardest to build?
Metacooler.
Hercule.
I disagree with that.
Let me think.
Well, maybe not Hercule, actually. No, okay. I was thinking hardest to get good. Hardest to build.
No,
maybe
hardest
not so
to build.
Yeah.
I think Metacooler definitely is one of the nastiest to try and figure out. I think probably Captain Ginyu is pretty iffy.
Yeah. Captain Ginyu, Garlic Jr.
Yeah, no, I don't think Garlic Jr. is difficult to build.
Goldo.
I think it's difficult to build. I think Garlic Jr. is difficult to build because he just, no matter what you put on him, he's not performing well. I have seen
little Garlic Jr. is great. Big Garlic Jr. has moments of being great. Big Garlic Jr. The problem Marcel had with Big Garlic Jr. in season 4 wasn't that he was a bad player, was that they just didn't experiment enough. There wasn't enough change in what they were trying to do with him. Yeah, so they'd go for, alright, let's do melee.
Actually, I have to disagree with that, because while in season 4 maybe not, if you count season 4 and the preseason and the preseason for season 5, they ran the gambit on that character and nothing worked. If you look at what they tried to do in the preseason and their test in the off season, they tried just about everything on Big Garlic Jr. and none of it worked.
Tests don't mean anything.
I'm saying, if you look at the test and the preseason and season 4, he ran the gambit and failed at all of it.
And
they tried.
Tests don't really mean anything. Tests are only a very basic idea of what might happen.
Then look at the preseason and season 4. He was a melee character, he was a B2 character, he was a charge character, he was a tank, and he did none of it well.
You're telling me that the preseason of any of these seasons are telling of how people are going to behave when every single person in every team in the league either is or ought to be testing out what their team is going to do? That's
Rebel,
really telling?
Yes, it's telling when you look at the character and the character does not perform well. Not the character doesn't do well against certain characters, but that Garlic Jr. was abysmal every single week that he was a Big Garlic Jr. That's telling. Of course it's telling. If the preseason didn't tell you anything about your character, no one would care about preseason. Yes,
the preseason does tell you stuff about your character, but it depends how often you have to come into the preseason with an idea of what you want to do, because we've already seen in the league so many times that a player can be abysmal for a week or two, and then suddenly you're looking at one of the most consistent and well-built players in the entire league just with the same build. That those initial 2 weeks, or 2 weeks during anything out of 6 weeks, 2 weeks they're a bit shit, and then the other 4 weeks suddenly or interestingly these people change. That's the preseason is great. If you go into the preseason with an idea that you want to test, brilliant. But if you go through the preseason and you say, I don't remember what they did in the preseason off the top of my head, but if you go into the preseason and say, right, we're going to give this 2 or 3 weeks, You know, we're going to give what we've done before maybe a week. See what it does. If it does well with these little changes, then okay, great, we'll continue on with that. If it just continues doing what we've already seen, then fine, whatever. The other 3 weeks need to be consistent. If those aren't consistent, the testing data you get is entirely irrelevant. It's why I'm not convinced by doing like mid-season AI testing, because not only are you up against your own character, yeah, it's not necessarily hugely useful. You're also not getting them out in a full team scenario.
First of all, I have to disagree with you that tests are irrelevant, because tests...
I'm not saying they're irrelevant, I'm saying they're not as useful as people seem to think they are.
No, you were actually saying tests weren't useful. That's exactly what you were just saying. Tests are very useful when used properly. But look, no one's disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that Garlic Jr. What? Sure about what?
You sure you're saying you're not disagreeing with me?
Okay, no, I'm not disagreeing with what you said about the test and Garlic Jr. I'm not saying that Garlic Jr. is a hopeless cause or anything like that. I am saying that he is a difficult character to figure out a build for. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying he doesn't have one. I'm not saying that he is hopeless or anything like that. I'm saying that from what I've seen, from what Team Muscle tried to do, he's not easy to figure out. He would be a difficult character to build. That's what I was saying. I'm not saying I don't already have an idea of exactly what I would do with him, and I think I could be fairly successful at it. I'm saying that compared to other characters, it took a lot more time and effort to figure out what I would do with him. That was my point.
Well, if for you spending the time figuring that.
All right, hang on now. Hang on.
Cool. No. All I'm saying is, for you to figure out what you would do with him, that's cool. But there are other characters like I personally would hate to try and look at. I'd hate looking at Yamcha and going, for fuck's sake. I would look at Yamcha and go, genuinely, I think that the one thing the Earth Defenders haven't really tried is a certain style of melee. But then again, his B2's fucking brilliant if he uses them. I'd hate to have to try and build Yamcha, because I'm looking at this going, well, I think melee probably would work reasonably well, but the fucking B2s, look at them, they're brilliant. Whereas Garlic Jr., I don't... Okay, the old Garlic Jr. in the old league, I thought was a good character. I still think he's a good character. But you just need to build him. As I said before, I'm pretty sure I know what I do. In fact, I have multiple ideas for Garlic Jr. As to what I do with him, but...
Okay, two very sad things here. First,
on that one.
Two very sad things here. First, I thought you were going to go with the, well, you figuring out a character doesn't mean much because it takes you forever to do anything. And the saddest thing about that is...
I'm really rude?
No, the saddest thing about that, I was all set to agree with that statement. I was going to be like, yeah...
I'm hugely rude, but I'm sorry. You figured out Krillin.
It's true.
You got Krillin to work as a melee character. You got Goku. You guys got Goku to work. I'm sorry, but even me saying I'm being the most insulting I can possibly be, I don't think that's a reasonable statement.
I would hope that dealing with builds every week that this league has existed would at least give me some sort of insight.
Yeah, I'm gonna make absolutely no comments on which one of the three of us is the better build maker, because that's completely unreasonable. But you know, it doesn't necessarily matter,
right?
Because we each have different, the three of us have completely different ways of approaching it. Like, I immediately looked at Garlic Jr. and the way he functions and the way he has functioned in previous seasons, and thought, okay, I know what I'm going to do with him. I know how I would, or I have a generally good idea of what I'd do, because he's a player that I've ripped on quite a lot. But,
yeah, I don't have time for that. Got my own team.
Yeah, they're just not very good.
Wow. The last question by Huzzah for Timelines is, now that we're almost a third of the way through the season, what were your biggest surprises in the past 4 weeks?
Val's going 4-0.
Dragon Ball Warriors being the most damaging team in the league.
Yeah, that would go too.
Really?
I mean, I expected the Vals to do good. I didn't expect them to be 4-0. And it's not like the Vals were fighting all easy opponents either.
No, not at all.
Yeah,
I'm not actually surprised about either of those things. I'm surprised that Cold isn't doing better.
That's true too. Yeah, I think
In
I'm
all
more
seriousness,
surprised
I am
that Cold. Yeah,
gobsmacked.
I think I'm more surprised that Cold isn't doing well. Dragon Ball Warriors being highest damaging team, definitely.
I'm surprised-ish. I would have expected Dragon Ball Warriors from what they showed us last season to still, because at the end of last season, they were doing really well, but I still thought there was a lot of room for improvement. So I'm not hugely surprised that they've managed to do that, especially not with the players that they've currently got, and with fucking Grandpa Gohan and all of that. It's they're a genuinely good team. I think Cold going 1-3, probably Boo going 1-3 as well.
Maybe Boo being the least damaging team in the league is another one.
Yeah, definitely that actually.
I would say 17 going 10 for 10 with B2s. I expected him to have a high completion rate, but 10 for 10 is just, it's amazing. That you're going to fire 10 B2s and connect with all 10 of them, I think that's an interesting stat, definitely.
No, it is very interesting.
And the fact that the highest damaging player in the league and the first elite player is Tambourine. I
would look at that and I would go, I could see that.
Not before the season started. I wouldn't have said that.
No, he was powerful last season.
Yeah, but he wasn't. I mean, I don't think he was even the. He wasn't even the best Namek.
Yeah, but he wasn't. Yeah, okay. I'm with you.
No, I'm still not surprised by that.
Fair enough. And yes, that's all of the questions done. If anyone wants
you
to,
guys are useless.
Yeah, pathetic.
Fuck.
If anyone wants to, of course, respond to any of our statements we've made here, you can do it in the team responses thread, which we've only just remembered we'd had.
I remembered we had it.
Well, I didn't. I completely forgot until it was mentioned.
I remembered we had it. I think I forgot it during the Zcast, but...
Or during the same Zcast we made it.
Yeah.
Probably.
No, during the Zcast after the one that we made it.
Oh, right. I was about to say.
Forgot it was a thing.
Fair enough.
Were there responses that... do we need to respond to any of that?
I did it already, don't worry.
Did you? Alright. I'm sure you don't speak for all of us, but whatever.
Well,
no, actually, but here's the thing, though. We should do that on the Zcast, because that's the whole point. They don't have the opportunity to get their voices out like we do, and the whole point of that was for us to acknowledge their voices on the Zcast. Otherwise, I mean, if we just respond to it, that's still not them getting their word out.
No, I know, but it's not... We can't... Otherwise, they just do it as a question. And it would just be a massive conversation going through a Zcast every week or something. So, I mean, it's just a bit cleaner that way. I can see your point. But
I mean, we could do that and just say, right...
You know, a better way to do this, and we should actually have people, mention this. A better way to do this is, a lot of you know what we're going to be talking about during the Zcast. A lot of you can sit there and say, okay, they're going to be hating on this build or whatnot. So before we start the Zcast, it might be better to say here, like, for example, a perfect thing is the Rugrats probably knew we were going to discuss the Halo on both characters. They could, before the Zcast is recorded, say, here's my reasonings, here's why I did it, and that way we would have that kind of fire to use to defend them when we're actually talking about it in the Zcast. That's something that could be very useful.
Yeah, that'd be fine. I mean...
I'm not cool with that at all. I don't think that's reasonable in the slightest.
You'd have to get...
I'm not defending anyone. What the fuck?
You'd have to... Oof, I don't know where you put that, actually.
I mean, you'd
put it in the response thread.
Putting in the response thread.
Yeah. Just say, look, I'm pretty sure you
could put reasoning in the questions thread. I mean...
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could put it in like a spoiler titled something like Zcast... thing.
Yeah, or just either put it in the questions, thread as an additional thing for your question, or send one of us a PM. You know,
that's true.
Certainly for myself, I am on an awful lot, so I
actually, you could do that. You could send a PM to one of us and say, "Look, if you guys are covering this, here's my reasonings for doing it." That would work fine too.
And that might actually encourage us to do Zcasts slightly more often.
Yeah,
and I mean, I check my PMs once a day, at least, so, yeah.
I would if I got any.
Usually at least once a week I get a PM from Rebel going, "Have you seen what this person is doing? That person's
Yeah.
doing?"
Actually, no. To be fair, that's usually on Skype and me going, "For fuck's sake! Why are they doing? What is going on?"
You know, you guys should be proud of Rebel. You have no idea how many times he'll come up to me and say, "Okay, I don't want to cross the line here."
Yeah. I don't want to cross the line here, but can I ban this person, please? Can I just sort of take their thread and delete
The
it?
thing is,
Yeah,
the
I
thing
would,
is,
I would say, I would say to all coaches, it's not hard to consider or think, okay, this is something they might discuss on the Zcast. Let me throw my defense out there for them before they do the Zcast. That would actually be incredibly helpful.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
you
it
can,
would be
you
interesting.
can do that.
Yeah.
And then anything we say in that Zcast, respond to it in the team responses thread, and then we'll get back to it there. There we
God,
go.
you're confusing people, HJK. Jeez.
Well,
making it difficult for the poor sods.
That way we only get the intelligent ones answering. Elitism
So
for
we're
the
gonna get
win.
no responses then.
What are you saying?
God.
How could you be so mean? Anyway, we will now.
Why am I being so mean? I'm always mean.
We will quickly go through the predictions for next week.
Do we have to?
Yes, Rebel, we do have to.
Oh,
The first match of week 5, third of the way through the season, Super Saiyans versus Margins.
Super Saiyans.
Super Saiyans.
Yay, Super Saiyans. Next match, Saiyans versus Cold.
I think Cole have got this one.
Ooh, I'm gonna go Saiyans actually.
Okay.
I don't know, have Napper in. I will go No, I'll go Cold. Because then if Cold loses, then, I win.
You can be happy.
Yeah. Next match, Boo versus Rugrats.
Boo.
I'm going to go
I think
Rugrats.
Rugrats have got a
Rugrats.
chance if they pull out Gotenks properly.
Yeah,
I think they've got a good chance. But
I'm going Rugrats simply because look at Boo's performance.
I'm going Rugrats as well, actually, yeah, for the same reason. Ooh.
And they rotated out Majin Buu, so more likely than not, they're gonna have to rotate out one of their stronger characters.
Yeah.
maybe.
The next match is an interesting one. Valkyries versus Dragon Ball Warriors.
Valkyries.
Valkyries, yeah.
I'll go Dragon Ball Warriors. I'm on your
I
side.
wouldn't be surprised if Dragon Ball Warriors win, but I think Valkyries are the
No,
best
I know,
team.
yeah. It'll be an interesting match, hopefully.
Definitely.
Next, Ginyu Force versus Muscle.
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 Next match is Gohans versus Androids.
Gohans.
I'm gonna go Gohans too. Yeah, they've been really good.
Wow, who do they rotate out? I think it was A.
Saiyaman
That
this
was
week.
no, but Androids was Jiro.
Androids rotated out Jiro.
Yeah, I'll go with Androids then. Next match, Namek versus Earth Defenders.
Namek.
I love my team, but I predict Namek's gonna win it.
I will also go with Namek, yes. And then the final match is Blades versus Dirt.
Blades.
Blades.
And that's it for the Seacast for week 4. Thank you very much for listening. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.
And we'll see you next week.
Alright.